It's the Raw Meat Podcast, the most mediocre wrestling podcast on the internet. With the smart Greg Adams, the nature boy Jay Whatley, and the hardcore icon Puff.
All right, it is the Raw Meat Podcast, and we are getting set to recap last night's Money in the Bank. Jay Whatley,
Hey.
Puff, Greg Adams, and by the way, Jay, I wanted to show you this. I brought this just for you.
Look, guys,
This is a championship belt.
that belt out of here.
That will remain over my shoulder.
I
yet
believe
again.
that, and now even with my argument, because you guys both finished with 5 correct predictions.
Yes.
Yep.
I technically finished with 4, but I feel like I can argue my way at least to a tie.
No, you can't.
And even if you do argue your way to a tie, we had determined previously that any tie would divert to the champion.
Wait. Hold on. You and I both have 5?
Yeah.
Well, I'm cashing in my Money in the Bank and taking the title.
Wait.
Here.
I
Wait,
thought that
you have
only
5 with the extra point, right?
Wait, no, hold on. It may not be 5 because
We might have a title switch right now.
Hold on.
I'm about
Yeah,
to-
no one actually did the math. Greg and I looked at each other and we're like, we'll figure it out in the morning.
No,
No.
you only have 4.
Yeah, you and me tie. He
No,
has 5.
I had it written down as 5 before there was a cash-in of a Money in the Bank at the end, because you would have 5 if Rollins left the arena with the championship belt. But
Damn
you have
you, Jay,
4
and your vote.
because of that. So let's go through the picks before we recap the whole thing, just
So
so
you and me
everyone
are
knows
tied,
what we're
puppy.
talking about.
And then after my argument that I make momentarily, I will be tied for the belt, not you.
So when we made our predictions, the Apollo Crews Sheamus match and the Dolph Ziggler Baron Corbin match were scheduled for the pre-show.
True.
So we picked those as pre-show matches. Puff and I both picked Apollo Crews.
Because
You
it
had
was
picked
logical.
Sheamus.
but also said that if this match was in the main show, I would pick the other way. But since it's pre-show, I'll go Sheamus.
And we will honor that.
I appreciate that.
So we will say that
Very nice.
Jay did pick Apollo Crews,
Absolutely.
so we all 3 got that one correct. Dolph Ziggler, Baron Corbin, we all took Baron Corbin anyway.
Yep.
Baron Corbin wins. I'm going to skip around my page real quick, so you guys may not follow along, but this will just make sense in the
You
order
mean they'll
of
follow along, Greg?
U.S. Championship match. We all took Rusev. Rusev wins.
3 for 3.
The AJ Styles John Cena match. Puff and I both selected AJ Styles. You had selected John Cena.
I feel like for you guys to get credit for that bougie pick, you should have also have stated that, because it was not a clean victory. Technically, Cena won clean because if the ref is in the ring, he's obviously counting to 3. So technically, Cena was the winner of that match, regardless
Moving on.
regardless of how it ended.
You're an idiot.
I'm not an
Charlotte
idiot.
and Dana Brooke beat Natty and Becky Lynch. We all picked
Yeah.
Natty and Becky Lynch because
course.
it just made sense.
I'll never pick against Charlotte again. I never again, no matter what, under any circumstance.
We'll go through a deeper discussion on all of these after we recap the rest of the picks. The Tag Team Championship match, New Day, Enzo and Cass, Vaudevillains, and the Club. Jay had chosen the Club. Puff had chosen Enzo and Cass. I had correctly predicted New Day would retain.
Yeah, the safe pick.
It didn't sound so safe
no
when you guys were
respect.
making cases against it.
No, I didn't make a case against it.
The Money in the Bank ladder match, Sami Zayn, Cesaro, Jericho, Ambrose,
Let's spend a
KO,
lot
and
of time
Alberto
here.
Del Rio.
Let's talk about this.
Puff had chosen KO. I had predicted Jericho. Jay correctly predicts Dean Ambrose.
Thank you.
Then in the heavyweight championship match, which we put a stipulation on.
We did.
Because this was the Money in the Bank match, and there was going to be a Money in the Bank briefcase in someone's hand, we said you could pick Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, or somebody else to leave the arena with the belt. That's how we phrased this. If we would have remained at Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins, period, then Puff would have won because he correctly identified Rollins as the winner, where we had selected
Reigns.
Reigns
Well,
as
you
the
two
winner.
outvoted me. It's all right. I'll get you
And-
next pay-per-view.
And because we phrased it as who leaves with the belt, last night's Dean Ambrose cash-in and taking of the belt, which, and I will say this, I handed the belt off because when that cash-in happened, at no point did I expect
Me either.
Dean Ambrose to actually leave with the belt.
And it was so quick, man. It was like boom, boom, done.
I
Smacked him in
assumed
the face with the briefcase, handed it in, hit him with the dirty deeds, and it was
Game over.
done.
Seth Rollins put up no fight.
I had assumed that what they would do is cash it in, let Rollins beat Ambrose, and then have Rollins retain his first defense against Ambrose. Ambrose gets the briefcase out of the way. Rollins leaves as the champion. That's what I thought. Like, I thought that was so solid. I handed the belt over already.
Yeah.
And in past years, they have conditioned us where there's always a few false cash-ins before they actually use the briefcase. Where I'm gonna nope.
But
Change
see,
my mind.
if I was just smart about this, because the only way that a true triple threat between those three can take place logistically, Dean Ambrose had to win. Because Roman Reigns gets his rematch, Seth Rollins gets his rematch that they're both owed. Where if it ended in any other way, a triple threat match wouldn't make any sense.
They can technically. They don't need any setup on a triple threat. They both claim.
They could just say, all right, well, like if Dean cashed in and didn't win, they could still say, yeah, that was dramatic enough. We'll throw you in the triple threat or the match as well for Battleground or whatever. Whenever they do the triple threat, because they're going to do it. But with Dean Ambrose winning, it gets Seth Rollins his guaranteed rematch, and Roman Reigns an argument for his because he never got a chance to have his rematch, since it happened literally within 30 seconds.
And I think that's how the setup moves forward. Now, Puff, you made a case for why this happens at Battleground and not at SummerSlam.
Oh yeah, SummerSlam is one of the big four. Battleground is just one of though usually a toss-away pay-per-view. But this time, we actually have something worth watching. You put a three-way between The Shield as the main event on Battleground, all of a sudden, a pay-per-view you can miss becomes must-see TV.
And it'll be interesting to see how they frame Battleground, because it will take place. It'll be the first pay-per-view that takes place after the draft, which we can now say there will be a draft.
Yes.
We
First
do know.
SmackDown.
It'll be on the 19th, which I believe that's the one in Boston.
I think so.
Which kind of worries me on my pick about John Cena being the number one pick for SmackDown, because I thought that something that would play into that would be the fact that John Cena would be making his first SmackDown appearance in front of a home crowd. Now, it could still work because that draft pick anywhere else would get booed out of the building.
Yep.
But being that you're in the greater Boston area, New England, if that pick for John Cena, number one to SmackDown, happens, that's cheered. That is cheered loudly, something that wouldn't happen elsewhere. So I still stick by that pick, but it'll be interesting to see what happens at Battleground, because you're going to have two separate rosters now. Is this going to be an all-Raw pay-per-view?
Well, if you go by the promo where they had flags for everybody, there's no way all the talent they had in the commercial winds up on two shows.
There might be, because as Jay and I were taking apart this promo, there's a lot of talent missing.
Well, there
from
is
this
that
promo.
too.
Only Kaz represented.
Not Enzo,
Not
just
Enzo.
Big Cass.
And there is that scene where they're all fighting each other. And Cena's with AJ, Reigns is with Rollins, no Dean Ambrose in that particular scene.
Nope.
Big E and the rest of the New Day looks like they're going right up against Kaz with no Enzo.
Well,
But
Enzo's
there
so
was-
small, he
there
was hidden
room.
behind.
Yeah, he was there. You'd have to zoom in.
Yeah, you
quite
just
a
see a
bit.
little peek of his little.
Also weird though, they had Baron Corbin jumping into nobody. Like there wasn't anybody across.
But
from
we
him.
need to slow our roll here and pump the brakes a little bit.
Kurt
'Cause
Angle.
If you guys remember, that's actually not a bad idea. If you remember was it Extreme? It wasn't Extreme Rules. It was the pay-per-view before
Payback.
Extreme,
Oh, yeah,
Payback.
yeah.
The entire pre-promo
Yeah.
posters, everything. All Wyatt family.
Well, they all died.
Then
right
no
before.
Wyatt family at the event. So we probably shouldn't read too much into the promos at this point, but we do have a lot of setups for the upcoming pay-per-view, because if we want to roll through some of this
Can
real
I
quick,
quickly make an argument of why I should tie for the belt or possibly win the belt?
No,
I've been thinking about this all morning.
I'm turning off your mic if you go.
Wow.
on.
No, let him he'll tire
I'll be
himself
quick.
out.
No.
He's like a toddler that way.
While the heavyweight championship is going on, and of course Puff made the idiotic pick of the Wyatt family interrupting, which was just
That wasn't a pick. That would have been awesome.
That got stupider and less realistic as the night went on. and I hope you know that.
No, I was still feeling it.
Let me just.
That's what I say to you.
Let me just say this. There are two crucial matches that went down last night where you, Puff, only partially predicted one right, and you, Greg, predicted neither one right. Me, on the other hand, predicted one perfectly right, and the other one, I got the big thing right. I got the cash in right, and I got Dean Ambrose winning the bank.
Whoa. We said.
I think I should get a point. I'm just saying that I think I should get a
We all
point.
said there would be a cash in.
No, we did not.
Yeah, we did.
No.
Yeah.
No.
We all sat here and said there was going to be a cash
Okay,
in.
well, either way, though, if it's a cash in, it wasn't Jericho or Kevin Owens, it was my guy. So I was right. So I think I should get a bonus point for predicting a Dean Ambrose cash in.
If I don't get my bonus point, then you don't get yours.
We're not.
I'm just saying, I think that I deserve it.
Here's what we're gonna
I
have
said I took my loss with grace, that I was outvoted by you two knuckleheads. So I'm coming after it, Battleground, taking what's rightfully mine.
This is what we're going to have to do at Battleground. We're going to have to, first of all, get our flags. We all need flags at this point.
I got my CM Punk flag ready.
What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to not pick and predict the entire show.
Oh, God.
We are going to have to take 3 matches.
And predict exactly how
And we're going to have to just pick a small sample size of matches. So we don't get all of this, like, okay, any match that we all are in agreement on, we just take
Scrap
off.
it.
We just scrap it. Because those don't matter. And all those do is they start to create this, like, weird, like, okay, well, you predicted that Rusev was going to win, but I said it was going to be by submission, and you said it was going to be by pinfall. We don't need any of that. We don't need all of this little stuff.
It's just Jay doing
Dean
it.
Ambrose cashing in is not little. I think that's major and,
But-
worthy of a point.
But we all sat here and said,
But I had the right guy.
we don't predict it as who wins that match.
And
We will
also,
predict it.
John Cena did win that match, damn it.
All right,
He had AJ Styles pinned for 10 seconds.
All
He
right, so
didn't
what we need to
have
do
his
is
hand raised.
Oh,
what we need to do is try and figure out how much of this will translate into the next pay-per-view post-draft.
2 matches.
Okay, well, go ahead. Which 2?
I think AJ and Cena, that feud continues. And, of course, the championship thing with Reigns, Rollins, and Ambrose.
So how many of these are dead rivalries at this point?
I hope Dolph Ziggler and Baron Corbin.
I
for
do
the sake
too.
of all that is right
Yes.
in the world.
I really hope that one's over. Apollo Crews, Sheamus, it's kind of like a side story. I mean, it's all right. It's basically just trying to find...
The Golden Truth will live on. That's another one that will
You know,
no.
I wouldn't mind seeing Apollo Crews go for that United States belt.
I'd rather Corbin get it, but I'd be all right with
Yeah,
Cruz.
Corbin would be good.
I would be all right with either of those guys. Basically, what I'm interested in at this point is the same thing. We've said on this podcast for a long time, and I've said they need to have SmackDown live. They need to have SmackDown separate. They need to bring basically the only thing that I've asked for that we haven't got yet is, well, there are 3 things, I guess, if you include that women's tag team division. I still really want that to happen. But we need to bring the big gold belt back, and you'll argue with me on that. And the other thing that we need to do is have these belts change hands more often.
And I'll also argue against the women's tag division, because after last night's match, I never want to see one of those again.
No,
It was horrible.
you have to get them more experience in that style of match before they're ever going to look good, and it gives you an opportunity to get some of these women more ring time. That's a conversation for another period, but I think that what we're hopefully going to see, Cruiserweight Classic got a lot of love last night in the promos. So I hope that the Cruiserweight Classic will lead to a Cruiserweight division and a Cruiserweight Championship return, which gives us another opportunity to strap up some guys who could use that legitimacy, because that's what a lot of these guys are missing right now. They get a victory, Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens gets a victory against John Cena. That means something for a little while. But a full year down the road, you can't just keep saying, well, once upon a time, he beat John Cena. That doesn't mean anything. And Apollo Crews, yes, he beat Sheamus, and Sheamus has had world championships, but it doesn't make Apollo Crews any more believable or give him any more credit because he beat Sheamus. What would give Apollo Crews as a character some legitimacy is if he had a run with a belt. If you could say, former U.S. champion Apollo Crews. If you saw pictures of Apollo Crews with a belt, now all of a sudden he becomes a more legitimate character. We have way too many guys who are rolling around without that credibility right now.
Well, Apollo Crews has only been there, what, a month? 2
Right,
months?
and he just popped in my head as the example. But even a guy like Goldust, who has held Intercontinental Championships in the past, it's been so long.
What did I say last night about the Golden Truth?
You have this weird idea that they're going to somehow win a tag team championship.
They will.
And I
don't know.
They will be future tag team champions. It's going to be a weird finish. They'll probably only have the belt for one night or a week, but they will be champions.
So how long will it take them to go from just pre-show jobbers to in the consideration for a tag team championship that already features 4 teams
now
that are in the mix?
But this does bring up that whole point about how do you determine which tag teams are better than the other? How do you, without a ranking system, without a structural on paper saying,
well, shoot, the Lucha Dragons looked pretty good last night.
So now, where do those guys rank? Where do they all?
And Dudley's based on name alone. You can't just say they're not involved.
Now, if we had a structured setup where you said these are the top 10 tag teams right now, and number 1 is your champs, and number 2 is your number 1 contender, then you could actually sit down and say, okay, we're going to have a matchup at Battleground for the number 1 contendership for the tag team championship.
But the WWE would never do that because that's 2K's idea.
Well, I mean, is it 2K's idea just because 2K uses it, but it makes the game more enjoyable.
Definitely.
And it makes it easier to follow. And if we're talking about this is PG-13 era, we want kids and families, wouldn't it be easier for the kids and families to follow along knowing who their ranks are? I totally think this is
But then
great.
that holds the WWE accountable.
Which is also another, I mean, again, this is pro wrestling. We're thinking way too much about it.
I'm glad you said it so I didn't have to.
What I want to know is what happens with these 4 individuals. Sheamus, Cesaro, Jericho, Alberto Del Rio.
It depends on what show they end up on.
What happens? What are they doing now?
It depends on what show they end up on.
That really brings up a good point.
Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, I think they'll do their thing.
I don't think
that's ending.
I think they get split.
But why? Why would you split the only thing that both of them have going for each other?
Because it prolongs that next showdown. Because it separates them, so then when they start to come together at WrestleMania, when Kevin Owens shows up at the backstage at Raw and Brock Lesnar's Sami Zayn into the hood of a car and then runs away because he can't appear on the show, now it starts a feud out of the ring leading up to a showdown as your opener for WrestleMania.
Okay, and throw The Miz into that mix.
Well, that's actually...
Don't forget he's the freaking Intercontinental Champion
when you talk about Cesaro and Alberto Del Rio...
That's what I'm thinking, too.
It depends on what show they're on.
And that really is what we're...
And how the titles get split.
That's
and
what
how
we're going to spend
everything...
the next month doing. And that's why I'm glad that they set a draft, because the way that I would write this out, if I were sitting in that creative room and I were pitching an idea, I would say, for the next month... we have to have all of these guys jockeying for position for what show they want to be on, which would mean we'd have to develop who the general managers are very soon.
We're going to have to find that out probably in, the next 2 weeks?
You're going to have to, because they're going to have to start making plans for a draft that's going to take place on July 19th now.
And they've been running out all the old general manager. There's 2 that are missing so far. Vicky Guerrero and a certain fella named Paul Heyman.
That is true. But I think Paul Heyman's a little preoccupied with his side project right now.
Brock Lesnar?
Yeah. So we have to figure out who the general managers are going to be. Then we have to figure out who's on what roster. Then we have to figure out what the hell's going on at Battleground. There are so many questions. It's nice. It's nice that it's unpredictable because we don't know. But it's also not that cool because we legitimately don't know. It's not that we have a match that we don't know who could win. It's that we don't know anything.
Well, I think the reason they announced, there's going to be a draft. Here's the day. We're going to find out, the general managers are going to pick who they want on their shows. They laid all that today because the storyline's going to roll out starting tonight.
Hopefully. I really hope so. And they didn't...
Doesn't that mean, though, they should find the general and announce the general manager for SmackDown sooner rather than later?
Right.
Exactly.
But,
here we go. They just released the preview for tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw. Bullet point 1, how will Dean Ambrose celebrate his first WWE championship? Might another former SmackDown figurehead emerge? And then there's Natalia.
That would have to be Paul Heyman, right? He's the only SmackDown one left.
Vicky Guerrero.
Was Vicky Guerrero SmackDown?
Yes.
Okay. I thought she was Raw.
Did the club conspire against John Cena? Will Titus get retribution against Rusev?
Oh, please no.
Yeah.
Please no. All right. Well,
Can I also say one thing while we're floating?
yeah.
I did not appreciate the fact that the WWE used once again a main event to further bury my boy Sting.
Wait.
Yep.
What?
You shouldn't have asked.
They used another main event to further bury one of the most iconic wrestlers in history.
Hold on.
And
Let me
they
guess.
did that last night.
Let me guess how.
Oh, you know how.
Because somebody was able to take 2 buckle bombs and walk out of the ring?
No,
Okay, 'cause
no.
that's what I saw.
That was not if that was the case, that would not be a burial.
Because I saw a guy take 2 buckle bombs.
not die.
And walk out.
While you're very hot. I was offended by the fact that they allowed Roman Reigns to no-sell the move that literally retired Sting.
Oh.
They allowed him to no-sell the move that literally stopped him from wrestling ever again.
Bullet point 1, Roman Reigns doesn't sell a whole lot.
No.
And bullet point B, Roman Reigns isn't like 60. So he's got
there's
those
that.
2 things.
He no-sell. And look, in the wrestling world, Sting is not 60 either.
Do you think as a performer in the ring, moveset-wise, Roman Reigns is better than Sting?
Yes.
Yeah. I would say that too.
I mean, I would say yes. I would say 60-year-old Sting, yes. But if you take them both in their prime, no way. No way. You can't possibly say in your mind that Roman Reigns is a better wrestler than Sting.
Now,
Y'all's
if you say
blasphemous.
pro wrestler, if you say like everything,
No, I said moves. Yeah, moves. Sting in his prime.
moves.
Yeah,
physically,
in his prime. Yeah.
because and you know I'm trying to make Roman Reigns.
Take mid-90s Sting against this Roman Reigns. It's not even close.
Look, Sting was more charismatic. He could get things over. He knew how to perform in the ring, but as far as moveset and ability,
I
he's not even
disagreed.
close.
Because Roman
that's
Reigns
just
comes
stupid.
from an athletic background. He's a football player. He actually physically can. He's a 6 foot. What is he? 6'7".
So he
6'6"?
uses a spear and a over-exaggerated punch, and that is all of a sudden.
well,
better.
It's
actually-
everything else.
What? Name them.
Suicide dive over the top rope at a guy that size.
Sting's never done that?
No.
Bull.
The
Sting's 60 years old and he jumped off the top rope. Come on.
Sting
All right, here's Sting's moveset.
Sting was a
According
body.
to what? An edible page at Wikipedia?
Sting was a bodybuilder. Sting wasn't an athlete. Sting was a
This
guy
is
who
just
came in
crazy.
with.
You two hate him so much, and it blows my mind.
I don't hate Sting. I just don't love him like
Can't
you
even
do.
say his name right, and it's 5 letters long.
Stang.
Stang.
No, I'm not a Roman Reigns guy. So for me to say, because I'm just thinking about it, I was thinking about how enjoyable it was to watch a Seth Rollins Sting match where he almost got murdered, and how actually good the match between Rollins and Reigns was last night.
Sting had a good match with Reigns up until that moment. His match with Reigns, with Rollins, way better than his match with Triple H, night and day.
Oh yeah, big time.
Way better.
Because Rollins is so much better than Triple H.
Agreed.
But even if you took Sting in his prime, I mean, think about what were his finishing moves? His was an exaggerated jump into a corner. It was an inverted DDT, and it was a submission hold,
Those are great.
Which he
great
ripped off from Bret
classic
Hart.
moves.
which he did steal from Bret Hart.
No, and Bret Hart stole it from him, and Bret Hart would be the first to tell you that. And
So-
Sting stole it from a guy in Japan.
But you didn't have anything. I mean, we're not talking about Neville here. We're not talking about a guy who.
Well, yeah, of course.
But the things that
I
Roman.
don't think that their movesets are separate enough to say one is better than the other. And I think by name alone and what he accomplished, you can't possibly say that Roman Reigns has a better moveset. I can't.
Physically, I think Roman Reigns is better in the ring.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Everything
Y'all are
else
just
that is
crazy.
involved in being a pro
Y'all are
wrestler,
so
Sting is
insane.
so
Y'all
much
are
better
looking
at.
everything he did. You're looking at the 2 matches he had in WWE and basing your opinions off that, because I don't believe either one of you watched Sting in the early 90s.
Oh, I did.
Early
don't think-
90s blonde Sting.
Yeah, Blonde
Beach
Sting,
Boy Sting.
right as he was transitioning.
Yeah, I watched quite a bit of that.
I don't think so.
I watched more Crow Sting, where
Of course, and that was when his back end started. I mean, when he took a whole year off of wrestling and came back at Starrcade out of shape. I mean, he never got it back to the point where he was at.
But even when he was, we're so sidetracked right now. On
We
this.
are.
This
I'm
is
sorry.
Thanks for bringing up
I was
that
saying that I
jackass.
hated that the WWE used another situation to bury him and have Roman Reigns no-sell the move that almost killed him.
Well, what we know about Roman can lose, but he has to look strong.
Right.
I don't think you understand. Roman has to look strong. And that's what you had. You had 2 buckle bombs that didn't really even... I mean, the first one, it kind of got him, but it didn't that bad. And you had to have medical personnel come out and sell a potential concussion to make Rollins look like he could beat Reigns. You had to go to that extreme, and then he had to get pedigreed twice. 1, the counter pedigree on the spear, and 2, a pedigree immediately after. You had to have all of that stuff take place.
Well, it's the CM Punk thing. Hey, make Roman look strong. All right, I got it. I'm a professional. No, you don't get it. You can beat him, but Roman has to look strong.
But that's exactly what it was. Roman had to look so strong, even in defeat. And then he rolls out of the way, and Dean comes in, and briefcase and dirty deeds, and he wins.
That, man. I hated that.
So
I liked that he won. I hated the fact that he did it so effortlessly.
You know what my favorite part of last night was?
What?
He didn't do any of those stupid friggin' rope bounce things.
He didn't do any in the ladder match.
There wasn't a chance to.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Let's park on that for
I
a second,
hate
because
that.
we didn't spend enough time talking about that ladder match, because that ladder match harkened back to Ring of Honor ladder matches, which I think would probably be because half of your field are Ring of Honor guys.
Yep.
So you had the construction of the ladder palace,
Which was mighty disappointing the way they used it.
It was, except for the Sami Zayn Kevin Owens section of that. They used it properly. They did what was right. What did he hit? What did Sami Zayn hit on Owens on the ladder that was on its side?
Oh, it was a Michinoku driver, right?
Yes, that was brilliant. The power bomb onto the ladder was all right. I mean, it's to be expected, but some of those other shots that were taken were phenomenal.
By the way, can we give a moment of silence to Del Rio, who slipped on the top rope and knocked himself out on the ladder?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything about what his medical condition is. I was actually going to give some credit to Alberto Del Rio, because we all talked about how he's the misfit in this match. It would make the least amount of sense for him to actually win it. There were so many issues. He put on a great performance.
Well, he's a great wrestler. He just hasn't been given a chance to shine during this run. He had the title from Cena when Cena took some time off, and since then it's been nothing.
And I do appreciate, and I don't know if it was written in there or if the performers themselves just decided to do it, there were not a lot of slow climbs on the ladder last night, which is one of my least favorite things in the world.
Yeah, me too.
The slow climbs didn't have to take place because guys would reach for the briefcase, hit it, and swing it. And once that briefcase is swinging, it made it harder for people to grasp onto.
Yeah.
And Dean sold how hard it was to get it off that hook.
I know he isn't in this match, but isn't it the worst ladder match I've ever seen? It always involves Dolph Ziggler, because he sells the ladder, and then all of a sudden, minutes later, he gets pummeled with something way worse than what slowed him down in the first place.
And he can sprint up
and
the ladder.
He climbs up it as fast as he can.
So
I hate that.
I'm glad they kind of got away from it. I don't
Yeah.
know whose decision it was to get away from that last night. There were only a few slow climbs. I think Zayn was guilty of one.
Yeah, but they were in positions where they kind of made sense, as opposed to, I've been laying on the outside for 5 minutes. There's a ladder stood up there. I caught my breath, but
that.
this is so exhausting. Kind of like the Natalia tag last night.
Yeah, that was weird too. She slowly climbs across and then gets there and realizes that she just can't reach.
Oh,
just
I'm
can't.
right
just
there,
can't.
though.
Just can't. Yeah, that was painful. that was very
Oh,
painful.
logic.
There were a lot of people who, on the internet, were upset about the tag match, feeling that there were a lot of botches, that it was straight to botchamania with that first match. Now, there were some spots that were a little shaky, but I don't think that it's immediately to botchamania. I think you had some guys who were trying to take some more risks than they normally would, and sure, not everybody can hit every move every time.
Nope.
That's a hard match to have, though, man.
Well, you had
4 tag teams. and
Well,
one-
especially when it got crazy,
You know?
and there was a bunch of just insane stuff happening.
4 tag teams of varying levels of athleticism and completely different
And just experience in general, you know.
Well, their abilities, their skill sets don't match up that well. That's why actually New Day Vaudevillain matches are pretty good, because their skill sets match pretty well. Aiden English can actually take some dives. He can actually take some spills. Gallows and Anderson, not so much. Even Enzo and Cass. Cass is very athletic for being a big guy, but he's very plotting still, and he can't do a lot of the same things that those other teams can do or have them done to him.
By the way, though, can we get a round of applause for Cass and Gallows for that big boot?
Oh, the big
that was
boot
the most
over,
epic. Yeah.
And somebody, I think somebody pointed that out as a botch, that Cass botched that. That wasn't a botch. That was the sell on the move. He was supposed to take himself over the top rope.
That's how they got to the finish, because he was out of the ring, not able to break up the pin.
So there could be some people who are jumping to the conclusion that things are botches.
Jay.
When things are actually written into it.
I'm a botch expert, okay? I have logged many, many Botchamania hours. And I can tell you right now that NXT features more botches than an episode of Botchamania.
We're going to get to that point where we cut your mic off again. So that's pretty much the recap on Money in the Bank. I want to walk away from it, closing it out, saying, if not for the last 4 matches of the night, because I keep forgetting the placement of the U.S. Championship match. The U.S. Championship match actually took place before the Championship match. That was just weird. The ladder match, the AJ Styles John Cena match, and the heavyweight championship match with cash-in. If those don't go the way that they went, and if we don't get the cash-in and Dean Ambrose doesn't leave as a champion...
Or Golden Truth.
No, 1,000 times no. If those things don't go the way they do, and if we don't see Dean Ambrose leave as the champion, that Money in the Bank pay-per-view would go down as one of the worst of all time. Because the first half of that card, lower half of that card... is terrible. It's a dumpster fire. Apollo Crews Sheamus went about 5 minutes longer than it needed to. That should have still remained on the pre-show.
Yeah.
Charlotte and Dana Brooke, Natalya, Becky Lynch.
Worst tag match I've ever seen.
There was no resolution to anything. I mean, we got Natty beating up Becky Lynch from behind afterwards. So what does that set up? A Natalya Becky Lynch match to just keep Sasha Banks away from those two as we head to Battleground?
Sasha Banks... maybe, hopefully, we'll take on Charlotte while those two go on their own program.
Right.
Please, God.
And even the U.S. Championship match. Clearly, Titus was just there as a placeholder in that rivalry until they're getting whoever they want in there.
I hate that preview on for Raw, man.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
I hate that.
Really don't like that.
My favorite part of that match was Rusev making fun of his kids.
Yeah, that was...
I wouldn't mind seeing and I don't know how they would make it possible, but the only way I would like, if they must continue those two, I would like the match to be again tonight and Rusev destroy him again.
Yeah,
and
I would be
watched that way.
That very
and then the
way.
next guy comes in at the end.
Or even if you have a match tonight where I don't know why at this point you would have Rusev drop that belt though, because Rusev looks dominant. Rusev looks so good right now. And the weird thing that they threw out there, too, was Lana's introduction of dropping "and my fiance." That was kind of weird. Didn't know what that meant. Maybe there's a storyline coming up. Maybe because didn't Dolph and Rusev have this thing where Dolph was dating Lana, something along those lines?
Yeah.
Maybe they're getting ready to bring that back in some way.
I hope so, because it keeps Ziggler away from Corbin.
Yeah, and maybe you get Ziggler out with Rusev. I don't think Ziggler's ever winning the title, but I would rather see some Ziggler-Rusev matches again than to see more Titus O'Neil-Rusev matches.
I'm feeling a little maybe Cesaro love in there for Rusev, huh? Cesaro's got nothing going on.
I think Cesaro is going to be targeting that IC belt.
Yeah.
I think Cesaro's in that mix right now.
Or if they bring out 2 belts, he's going to go straight to the cream of the crop for one of them.
Right. And we can talk about this later this week because I do want to say we're going to have to do a fantasy draft. This is going to happen. And I think it maybe should happen this week.
I was looking at the draft history. No wonder the draft sucked the first time around. The first one featured 24 people, and then after that, the rest of them featured 13 picks.
Hopefully they do 24. We don't need 13 picks. We need an actual full roster on both shows. But we need to do a fantasy draft.
You know what would be fun? 7 picks, just like the NFL draft, and then everyone else is an unsigned free agent.
I don't like that. I really don't, because, again, this is all the reason that it works in the NFL is because it's not predetermined, and that you actually have people doing crazy, stupid stuff to make things happen. Where, being that this is all predetermined, just give us the draft and keep us guessing, and let it play out that way. But I think that we sit down and do a fantasy draft, and we do two versions of picks. We do the pick we want to see here, and the pick we actually think that they're going to do here.
I kind of want to wait like a week because I get a feeling some people are going to start popping up on TV that we haven't seen in a long time or will be first appearances because they're going to have to raid talent from inside the company and outside too.
I'm cool with the draft as long as Tom Phillips doesn't tip brand picks minutes before they're made.
You mean Todd?
Todd Phillips, yes.
What's his name?
No, Kevin Owens.
Oh, he calls him Todd?
Yeah, at least last night.
No, I'm thinking I've got the guy's name wrong.
We'll see how that goes.
He's the WWE's Adam Schefter, I guess, huh?
No.
I don't want him tipping picks.
Well, he's the WWE's punching bag. Everyone just yells at him.
But again, that's the difference between the NFL and this is we know this is predetermined. Like, we acknowledge that. But we like the storyline that's built around it, which is why a story that would be great here is if you know who the general managers are and you have people jockeying for the position on that brand.
Yeah, I think the general manager for SmackDown's revealed quick.
It's got to be.
I think we'll go through a week, maybe two, with former general managers and people pop up, and then week 3 we find out who it's actually going to be. And I still think it might be Daniel Bryan.
But even week 3, you're talking week 3 from right now?
Yeah.
Isn't that a
no?
week
That's like a week before the draft.
Exactly.
I don't know if it's that. I think you get.
I think it gets
either
tonight or
this week or next week.
I'm still thinking 3 weeks.
And if it happens next Monday, it's right off the bat. Because you want that storyline to have some juice.
Hopefully, if there is a storyline.
Well,
I mean, with some of the things they've done, there's not much storyline.
What if they just say, you know what, F it. Stephanie, you're here. Shane, you're there.
Then that's fine as long as we know, because they've already done a pretty good job behind the scenes of showing that this person is this, like Kevin Owens is one of Stephanie's boys right now, and not in the Dalton Castle way. This is a story that you've had set up where there are certain people who go to Shane and there are certain people who go to Steph. Now, if you have it established that Stephanie is Raw, Shane is SmackDown, then you have all of Shane's guys jockeying for the SmackDown slots, and you have all of Stephanie's boys, not in the Dalton Castle way, jockeying for the the Raw role. Now, it's the number 1 overall pick, and maybe they put something on it. Maybe they say the number 1 overall pick gets some kind of signing bonus or something. And they create, even if it's storyline structure, they create a storyline that says number 1 overall pick gets this. And so now all these people are fighting for, well, I should be the number 1. Why should Roman Reigns be the number 1? Why should Seth Rollins be the number 1? Why should John Cena be the number 1? And that creates a storyline. And that's one that we can all follow along with, and it's entertaining. But they need to establish the parameters of this story before they get into it.
Well, I'm sure, like I said, in the next 2 weeks, they're going to lay out a lot of stuff, and it's going to move quick. So...
Well, hopefully it starts moving quick, because we just wrapped up, hopefully, a lot of these weird storylines that have just been floating around, and hopefully we can start moving towards this brand split, and we can get a lot of things figured out in a short period of time, because if they keep dragging this out, if we don't know who the general manager is until the Monday before the draft, that's a wasted opportunity. Big time. Speaking of wasted opportunities, this is the Raw Meat Podcast. That's Jay Whatley. That's Puff. This is Greg Adams. We'll have more podcasts coming up, hopefully either this week or later this week. You can find us on YouTube, of course. You can find us on Facebook and on Twitter. Hopefully we get some more subscribers, and hopefully we break more records.
And hopefully we can institute a no-sting summer.
That's probably not going to happen. I can even guarantee that's not happening.
Hell no.
Shut up, Jay. You stupid idiot.
All right, that's the Raw Meat Podcast.